Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kia, and I'm here on my show with Questions with the Queen. I decided to go a different direction today, with that being the suggestion honestly came from my husband, which I think it's a great idea. It's something new, something of variety, something that you're not expecting. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and give credit to the camera guy, as well as the guy who exactly helped me come up with my question and this new idea. So Steve, I want to thank you very much, and to anybody that actually watches, please take the time to actually thank my husband, because he does put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, as well as a lot of work, not on just my show, but our primary show, which is every Friday at 10:15, as well as his plate exchange, which is during every pay-per-view when titles change hands. And we are actually thinking about doing a new one. It's still in kind of progress with, as you saw this past Thursday, Friday, we did new cosplay. So we're thinking about doing something a little different. We're trying to bring you new and fresh content, but the ideas behind it are not just mine. They are my husband's and my partner. So take the time and thank him as well. With that being said, the question is not a series of questions. It's just one question today. And the one question is behind me. Who has been the greatest Smackdown Tag Team Champions? In my opinion, I'm going to rate them from 6 to 1, with 6 being my least favorite to 1 being my all-time favorite. Also, as you saw on the board, I will later on down the line during the show will ask you your opinion, and it will be posted on our wall for Instagram. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started.
Well, one thing to take note of beforehand, we know this is a new format that's being brought out, but we're going to change it up every now and then to provide not just answers to questions, but also, different, content to keep things fresh, keep things exciting for everyone. But we, by all means, are not, no longer promoting you guys to ask us questions. The little question mark box is available down at the bottom of your Instagram screen. So if you still have a question, even if it's unrelated to the topic that we're discussing, feel free to, hit that button, type in your question, and when the segment is over, and we've gone through our poll here with Kia, then at that point we will still go through and answer any questions that we spot there. So by all means, still bring your questions forward, and we'll still get to them at the end of the segment.
I'm going to go ahead and be honest, like Steve said, with this being a new segue for me, a new thing for me to do. He will be kind of guiding me through, because he is, if you don't know Steve like I know him, he's good with his statistics. So he will be helping me with all the information and whatnot. So if I laps, that'll be him helping me, as you could clearly hear. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into it. We're going to go from 6, which will, in my opinion, I believe the 6th one is Heath, Slater, and Rhyno. You have to think, these two really were not meant to be a tag team, in my opinion, but you have to understand, they came together on SmackDown, no less, and and their union to me was, it was comical at first, but they actually started taking it seriously, and anywhere you saw Heath Slater, you saw Rhyno. And with that being said, they were, in my opinion, the first, as we all know, the first inaugural tag team, Smackdown Tag Team Champions. So in my opinion, I believe they are going to be 6 on my list.
Another thing to note, if you recall the storyline, is as Kia writes the answer up there on our board, remembering also that Heath Slater at the time, his job was on the line. He was being told that he was no longer going to be a member of the SmackDown roster. He was going to have to earn a spot, and so he had trouble finding someone to team with him, and it ultimately ended up being Rhyno who gave him the helping hand, and it allowed the crowd to really get behind him, and it's it really kind of boosted Slater's career back up during a time in which the brand split really helped SmackDown to get on the map as its own show and be something fresh and different, and that's unfortunately kind of fallen off in the last year or so. But it was something fresh at the time, and it gave Heath Slater, who kind of career was on a treadmill at the time, really helped to kind of reboost his career. And it also put Rhyno back in the limelight and gave some fresh, perspective towards a new championship that was being introduced at the time.
Thank you, Steve. Also, going into my number 5 team, let's not forget the American Alphas. Just because they're not together and just because you only see one, it doesn't mean that they weren't a tag team. I can tell you, when I was watching NXT, thanks to Steve, again, when I was watching NXT, I thought they were an awesome pair. I thought, at first it was, one was annoying to the other, but then the more you start seeing the storyline progress in NXT, they became where they were both, I believe, Olympians for their teams, and then they came to NXT and they came up, and they not only did they come to NXT and started actually working together, then they were drafted to Smackdown. So with being drafted to Smackdown, with them working NXT as much as they have, they were a cohesive team where they could work together. They knew each other's movesets. They knew each other like the back of their hands. How could you not? And then their intro was great. What they stood for was great. And so in my opinion, number 5, and let's not forget the American Alphas.
It was an interesting team to see them being the successful team that they were in NXT when the NXT Tag Team division was still very much fresh. And NXT was at the time, and in my opinion still is, the most exciting show that WWE has to offer at the moment. So when they finally got called up, it just seemed like it was destined that they were going to do something, amazing with this team because of how successful they had been on NXT. And for them to win the championship was a big moment for the crowd and for everything else. But at the same time, the fact that they only won it once is kind of a drawback, only because for reasons that, they wanted to go with. They wanted Jason Jordan to be a singles competitor. And, of course, he had major storylines once he moved over to Raw with Seth Rollins and, of course, with Kurt Angle. And then Chad Gable, now known as Shorty G. Obviously.
I don't know where that came from. I honestly don't like it. I'd like for them to go back to his original name, but hell, if it helps and if it means you're not sitting in catering, go for it.
A note coming in from our crowd here, they talk, going back to Slater and Rhyno being at number 6, they talked about the fact that they just never imagined that the two of them would be able to work together so well, and yet you look back at teams like Mankind and The Rock, back in the Attitude Era, there was no reason those two should ever get along, and yet they were one of the more successful tag teams you saw.
But like you stated, and like the opinion coming in from the audience, you have 2 different people coming together to form a tag team. That's what makes tag teams exciting. You have one person who may feel one way, and you have another person who feels another way. And with that comment, that is actually that is really great that someone brought that to my attention, because I would have never thought of it in the mindset, and that will actually help me going forward with the Revival. As you know, from what I'm saying, every tag team up till now has come from NXT or some form of NXT, even if they were separate and they came together, or they were together when they started NXT. But with that being said, you had the Revival. These were men who were strong, as you know from their song, strong Southern boys who love to fight. And I love the theme. I'm not going to even tell you how much. But with that being said, you had two of them who came together and just they fought anyone and everyone that came at them, and it's like they did it very effortlessly. Again, if you're a tag team, I believe you should also be able to work together as a tag team, knowing each other in and out, being able to be with each other all the time. And with that being said, the Revival, in my opinion, would be my... Again, it's just opinionated. So, number 4 would be the Revival.
For anybody who we lost our feed there for just a second, sorry about that. We had a call come in on my phone, so I had to block that out. I could have swore I shut off notifications. The Revival was a team, again, that just like the American Alpha came up from NXT, but you wanted to see a team that basically was, we're not here to be a gimmick, we're not here to be any type of, we're not here to be comical, we're not here to make you laugh, we're here, no flips, just fists, we're here to, we're going to beat you up, we're going to out-wrestle you, and we're going to be better than you. And they truly believed in the mantra and the mindset that they were the superior tag team to anybody that they faced, regardless of their individual or team-level talent. And, it's a shame that, obviously they're not with the company anymore, and it was made official earlier this week that they are AEW bound.
Oh, really?
Not a surprise there per se. Everyone kind of expected that now that their 90 days is nearly up. But you wanted to see the Revival be successful, and they were. Most of it being on Raw, but they did have one reign on SmackDown as their champions. And, I thought they made the most of it. I thought they were kind of foolish and wasted towards the end of their time with WWE, but the fact is, at least we got them, and you gotta, you don't sit here and be sad that they're gone, be happy that they were here at some point.
But when you look at tag teams, you look at Slater and Rhyno, you look at the Revival, you look at the American Alphas, and you think, how did they not stick around? Why did they not stick around? With that being said, we are going to move into our number 4 team, my number 4 team. My number 3, my bad. And as you know, the Bar, which included Cesaro and Sheamus, they were 2 separate identities. They were separate. They came together. They both love to fight. They both, you have Sheamus, who his mentality is, I'm Irish, I love to fight, I'm a fighter. But then you have Cesaro, who is the smooth talker, smooth looker, who is, at first they didn't work well together like any tag team, but, in order to make it work, they came together, they actually finally got on the same page, and if you've watched, they kicked butt, like literally. We were watching a match where they were competing, and you see Cesaro literally get his teeth knocked out and keep going. I can see why Sheamus wanted him as his partner now. But with that being said, that is my number 3 team, the Bar.
Everyone forgets that the Bar did win the Smackdown Championships for about 3 weeks. It was a very short reign, almost more of a transitional run. But at the same time, during their small period of time with the SmackDown title, it made it clear that they were set to be the face of the Smackdown Tag Team division. Now, with it being very cut short, most of their successful run was done on Raw, but they did get one run, and obviously, this all dated back. You spoke about Cesaro and Sheamus being part of, a team of folks, of individuals that ended up becoming a great team. You have to remember, this all started with a best-of-7 series several years ago, where the 2 of them just had 7 classic matches between each other, ultimately resulting in the final match being a draw, so there never even was officially the winner, thus declaring both of them to be even in capability, even in, in power and everything else, and it ended up turning them into a great team that, was able to be successful for several years, and just like the Mankind and Rock comment earlier, proving that 2 individuals can turn into a great team if set up properly.
Now, with that being said, my number 2, my next group for tag team, you would think, we've been talking about tag teams have been separate and they've kind of come together, but these 2 have lived with each other all their life. They are brothers. They went to the same high school. They went to the same middle school. They did everything together. And I am speaking of the Usos. You have to understand, from their perspective, they were drafted to SmackDown. They were drafted together. But again, where did they come from? They came from NXT. So again, let's put it on the map. NXT is, from what Triple H wanted, he wanted tag teams. And they came from NXT and they came up and they did their thing. And yes, at first they were heels, and they kind of went from being heels to faces. But with that being said, they've been together, they do everything together as far as wrestling, and they tend to take it, and they make it their own. So with that being said, the Usos would be my number 2 team, and for anybody that knows, I love the Usos a lot, so yeah.
I think you may have hit your script a little early there as you write it in, because the Usos actually never were in NXT. The Usos have been main roster their entire career. But I think you may have jumped to the number 1 segment a little early. But the Usos have been a team that was always right on the cusp of being great champions for years. During their early runs, when they wore the face paint, they occasionally would have Naomi in their corner. But the reality is they were never truly getting that push until they made their heel turn, or, what was supposed to be a heel turn, introducing the Uso Penitentiary, finally ditching the face paint, and finally saying we're tired of being overlooked. We know we're a great tag team. We can prove it on a regular basis. And the fact is, they have been rewarded for their efforts, not just with a very popular crowd reaction, regardless of whether they were face or heel, because they bring the smoke, no pun against the Street Profits, but they bring the smoke both in terms of on the mic as well as in the ring. And they have been rewarded with 6 different SmackDown Tag Team title reigns. They are definitely one of, if not the most popular team on there. For anyone who looked at our cosplays know that I represented Jimmy Uso in my most recent cosplay. If you haven't seen it, go take a look.
I believe he did very well. I even put some comments up there. I think he did very well with that. And I honestly want to hear, again, I want to hear from y'all on the cosplay. But let's go ahead and get into my number one tag team. When they got together and they formed this team, honestly, I honestly didn't take them seriously. I couldn't take them seriously, but they did what they did. They made it their own, and all these fellas here did come from NXT. They were individuals at the time, and they came up and they actually started working together, and they just kind of made it work. You all would know them as the New Day. So you have three individuals working together. You have Kofi Kingston, you have Big E, and you have Xavier. Big E, when he first got here, was with, he was the bodyguard to Dolph and to AJ. And Kofi, when he got here, was kind of doing his own thing. He was a singles competitor, and I believe he was a great singles competitor, in my opinion. And then you brought Xavier up, and you formed him with them, making the New Day. With that being said, as you all know, they are our tag team champions as of right now, and as well as the Uso, they have held this title multiple times. How could they not, with them being the, if I got it correct, the 8-time tag team world champions? But
Next time you got to do the swivel.
Oh.
There we go. Close enough.
Okay. Anyway, with that being said, that is my number one. So
to make sure our stats are right on this, 2 out of the 3 came from NXT. Kofi Kingston was never a member of NXT, but Xavier Woods and Big E both were. Big E actually, of course, at one point was the NXT champion for a little while. He was the person that ended up ultimately dethroning the inaugural champion, Seth Rollins. And was a very stout and very capable singles competitor when he came up. Kofi had won numerous, mid-card and a few tag team titles with some partners, so had already proven himself to be a person that is capable of teaming with anyone. And so, when you put them together with Xavier Woods, who for the most part in NXT was more of a mouthpiece and a mic person than a wrestler. I remember us sitting in San Francisco looking at the New Day when they were first starting to form right after Mania 31 going, I'm not sure this is going to work. Having nothing to do with race, having nothing to do with anything else, just it seemed like the three of them were just not built to work well together, and they have spent 6+ years proving us wrong every step of the way and being rewarded with 8 different tag team title runs, which is the most of any team in the modern era. And honestly, I don't feel like they're done anytime soon. This is not a team that looks like it's on the brink of imploding. You could, for teams like the Shield, you could see the cracks starting to form with their individual performances, but you can tell that these two, or, 2 now, but 3 when Xavier, before he got injured, they're having fun while they do this. They're being comical, but at the same time, they also know the capabilities they're all being able to do. And then at the same time, when they gave Kofi his WWE title run this past year, they never made it about themselves, or they never, everyone thought, okay, this is where Big E will turn, or this is where Xavier's going to turn, because now they got a shot to be WWE champion. They never did. They always were by Kofi's side the entire time. They supported him every step of the way. And then when his run was over, Kofi took it with grace, took it with stride, and went back to saying, all right, let's go win some more tag titles, and they've won 3 more since.
Yeah, and they've done well. Again, they're very comical, they're very humorous, they get you into it. There's no way you could actually turn down or overlook these 3 fellas. But with that being said, that is it for my show. I hope you enjoyed the new concept. I know that I did, even though, it was something new for me. Again, I want to thank my husband. But with that being said, I will be posting this question because honestly, yes, I want your opinions as an audience. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think or how you feel, and do you different from my order of the 6 that I chose, and is there someone I left off the list that you may feel like should have been on the list? With that being said, don't forget to check out our show On the Ring Apron every Friday at 10:15. We do have plate exchanges with my husband Steve during the pay-per-views, and we also have questions with the Queen at 2. With that being said, I want everybody to have a wonderful day. I will be posting. I will talk to you guys later. Love you. Bye.